The stars outside the great chamber glowed like silver dust, shining through the vast glass dome that arched above the Galactic Council. Hundreds of voices echoed through the hall, each belonging to a representative of a different world. Flags, symbols, and banners marked the seats of powerful empires and ancient civilizations. The chamber was alive with movement, with whispers of politics, deals, and warnings drifting from one side to the other. At the far edge of the hall stood Myra, the chosen representative of Earth. She was tall, calm, and her dark eyes never wavered as she looked toward the high circle where the ruling members sat. She knew this moment was historic. For years, humanity had been preparing to join the council. They had sent explorers across the stars, shared medicine with distant colonies, and even risked lives to save ships in distress. Humanity had proven, at least in their own eyes, that they were ready to take a seat among the stars. The Speaker of the Council, a tall being with crystal-like skin that shimmered under the chamber lights, raised one long hand. The voices fell silent. Today, the Speaker announced, we consider the petition of Earth, a young species that seeks a place in this assembly. Their world has risen quickly, reaching for the stars after only a few short centuries of space flight. Some see promise. Others see danger. Myra did not flinch. She stepped forward, her voice calm but strong. Esteemed members of the council, she said, humanity comes not with arrogance, but with hope. We are builders, explorers, and allies. We seek not to dominate, but to share, to contribute, and to learn. Grant us a seat, and you will find us steadfast partners in shaping a better galaxy for all. There was a ripple of reaction through the chamber. Some nodded with respect. Others frowned. A massive figure from the Varnak Dominion slammed its clawed hand on the table. Humans are reckless, it growled. Your history is filled with wars. You spread too fast. You leap without thinking. The galaxy cannot risk such chaos inside this hall. Another voice rose, this one from the Tesher Confederacy. They are clever, yes, but cleverness without patience is danger. We remember the first human colonies. Fires, conflicts, desperate resource hunts. Can we trust them not to bring such storms here? Myra listened without breaking her calm expression, though inside she felt her heart beat like thunder. She wanted to argue, to point out the hypocrisy of these words. Many of the same empires that now judged Earth had themselves been born from centuries of war and conquest. But she knew anger would only feed their doubts. So she stood tall, her voice steady. We are not perfect. But who among us is? We have made mistakes, yes. Yet we have also saved countless lives, human and alien alike. Our ships have answered distress calls that others ignored. Our doctors have crossed light years to stop plagues on worlds we did not even know. We do not ask you to see us as flawless. We ask you to see us as determined, as willing, as ready. The chamber grew restless. Whispers spread from one side to the other. Some representatives seemed moved. Others looked hardened, unmoved by her words. At last, the speaker lifted the crystal hand again. Silence fell once more. The council has heard the case of Earth, the speaker declared. The vote shall be taken. One by one, the elder civilizations cast their decision. Their votes appeared as glowing lights above their seats, green for approval, red for refusal. Myra's eyes tracked each light as it appeared. Green. Red. Green. Then more red. Her hope rose and fell with every flicker. For a moment, it seemed possible. For a moment, it seemed Earth might succeed. Then the final light glowed red. The result was clear. "The petition is denied," the speaker said, the voice ringing like a hammer. "Earth shall not take a seat at this time. The Council deems your species too young, too unstable, too bold. You may petition again in 1,000 cycles." A heavy silence filled the chamber. Myra felt the weight of the words press against her chest. 1,000 cycles, so long that no human alive today would see the chance. Humanity had been pushed aside, not just for now, but for generations. Myra bowed her head, but not in defeat. She turned slowly, her steps echoing against the polished floor as she walked out of the chamber. Every alien eye followed her, some with pity, some with contempt, and a few with quiet respect. Outside, she stopped beneath the starlit sky. Her hands clenched into fists, though her face remained calm. She thought of Earth, of the billions watching and waiting, of the people who had placed their faith in her. They would see the Council's decision as an insult. They would see it as rejection. But Myra did not see an ending. She saw a beginning. "They denied us a seat," she whispered to herself. "Then we will not ask for one again. We will build something greater. We will not be ignored." The stars above seemed to shine brighter at her words, as if listening. The galaxy had turned its back on Earth. But humanity would answer in its own way. And that answer would shake the stars. The message of rejection traveled across the stars faster than light could carry hope. On Earth, the announcement spread through every city, every home, every screen. The Galactic Council had denied humanity a place among the stars. The official words were polite, almost respectful, but their meaning was clear. Earth was not welcome. For a moment, silence hung over the planet. Then came the storm. Crowds filled streets in New Delhi, Lagos, Sao Paulo, and New York. Some shouted in anger, others stood in disbelief. In classrooms, teachers struggled to explain to children why their dreams of seeing Earth among the stars had been cast aside. In control rooms, scientists and astronauts who had worked for decades sat in quiet disappointment. But not all hearts sank. For some, the rejection became a spark. In a workshop near the coast of the Pacific, Tomasz wiped his hands on a rag, staring at the broadcast on a small screen. He was an engineer, a builder of machines meant to last in space. His face was tired from years of labor, but his eyes were bright with stubborn fire. "They call us reckless," Tomasz muttered. "Maybe we are. But they forget what that recklessness has given us. It gave us wings to fly. It gave us rockets to reach the sky. It gave us ships to cross the void." Around him, a few younger workers listened in silence. One finally asked, "So what do we do now? Wait 1,000 years?" Tomasz shook his head. "No. We stop waiting. If they will not give us a seat at their table, then we make our own." The words spread from workshop to workshop, from home to home. Leaders across Earth gathered in urgent meetings. Some wanted to protest peacefully, to show the Council that humans would remain patient. Others, frustrated by centuries of being underestimated, demanded stronger action. In the end, a decision formed, not from one person, but from the will of billions. Humanity would no longer ask for acceptance. Humanity would build, unite, and prove itself in a way that could not be denied. Plans moved quickly. Nations that had once competed now shared resources. Shipyards that had once built for single countries were now open to all. On the plains of Africa, massive solar arrays expanded, providing endless energy for new projects. In orbit above Earth, half-finished stations were completed in record time, linked together into something far greater than before. Myra, the diplomat who had stood before the council, returned to Earth carrying both disappointment and resolve. She watched as the planet came alive with determination. They refused us, she told a gathering of leaders, but in their refusal, they have given us something stronger than approval. They have given us unity. Let us not waste it. In the weeks that followed, unity turned into action. Engineers like Tomasz designed ships larger and more powerful than any Earth had built before. Scientists unlocked new ways to bend gravity and shield against radiation. Artists painted visions of Earth's future, of a galaxy where humans did not sit at the edge but stood at the center, surrounded by friends and allies. It was Asha, a skilled pilot from one of the first colonies on Mars, who spoke the words that gave the movement its name. Standing before a crowd of workers and explorers, she said, "If they will not share the table, then we will build a new one. Not just for us, but for everyone they left behind." Her voice carried across stations, colonies, and distant mining worlds. Soon the phrase was everywhere, a new table for all. And so Earth reached out, not to the mighty empires of the Council, but to those who had been ignored. Small colonies on the edge of the galaxy, struggling species who had never been given a voice, independent traders tired of unfair laws, all were contacted by Earth. At first, many were cautious. They feared the Council's anger. But when they saw the resolve of humanity, when they saw a people who had been denied yet still offered friendship, hope began to stir. One by one, they agreed to talks. One by one, they began to listen. The spark of defiance that started in Myra's quiet words, in Tamash's workshop, and in Asha's call now burned brighter. It was no longer a single flame. It was a fire spreading across the galaxy. In the skies above Earth, ships lifted into the void, carrying messages, supplies, and dreams. Children watched them rise with wide eyes, no longer sad but filled with wonder. For them, the Council's rejection no longer mattered. Humanity was moving forward, not backward. Late at night, standing on a balcony overlooking the glowing lights of a city, Myra thought about the Council. She thought about the crystal-skinned speaker and the way the chamber had turned red against Earth. For a moment, she felt anger again, sharp and heavy. But then she smiled faintly. "They thought they were ending us," she whispered. "Instead, they have started something they cannot control." Above her, the stars stretched out like a map waiting to be drawn. The galaxy was vast, and Earth had just begun. The spark of defiance was now a promise. And soon, that promise would change everything. The galaxy was wide, filled with countless stars and worlds. Yet not every world had a voice in the great chamber of the Galactic Council. Many lived in silence, overlooked or dismissed as unimportant. These smaller civilizations watched as the great empires ruled, their voices drowned by the power of the few. It was to these forgotten peoples that Earth turned. Asha, the pilot from Mars, became one of the first envoys. She was bold and steady, with a clear voice and sharp eyes that showed no fear. Her ship, the Aurora, was not large, but it carried something heavier than weapons or goods. It carried the promise of a new future. Her first journey took her to the Rim, where a species known as the Vayans lived on scattered colonies. The Vayans were thin, feathered beings with quick movements and tired eyes. For centuries, they had sent requests to the Council for fair trade rights, but their voices were ignored. Their cargo routes were taxed unfairly, their ships often stopped by patrols that treated them as little more than smugglers. When Asha arrived, the Vayans greeted her with suspicion. "Why would humans seek us?" their elder asked, his wings folded tightly around him. We have nothing to offer. The Council does not care for us. Why should you? Asha stood before him, steady as a starship at anchor. Because we know what it means to be refused, she said. Because they denied us too. But together, we can be stronger than alone. You are not nothing. You are many. And your voice should be heard. The elder studied her, and for a long moment, the silence was heavy. Then he gave a slow nod. The Vayans would listen. Word of Earth's message spread quickly among the scattered colonies. The Vayans, once quiet and forgotten, began to gather, curious about this new path. From there, Asha traveled farther. She crossed the paths of the Thalri, a mining people whose worlds had been drained by council-aligned corporations. Their faces were lined with scars from long years of labor, their ships patched and worn. When she spoke to them of a new alliance, many shook their heads. The council will crush you, they warned. They will crush us too if we stand with you. But Asha did not waver. Perhaps they will try, she answered, but they cannot crush hope. They cannot crush unity. And if we stand together, they will have no choice but to hear us. Her words touched something deep. The Thalri had long dreamed of justice but had never found the strength to reach for it. Now, with Earth's hand extended, they began to see a chance. Back on Earth, Myra and Tamash watched the reports with growing pride. Each new ally brought not just strength, but belief. What had begun as anger was becoming something larger. It was becoming trust. Soon, Earth's alliance was no longer a whisper. It was a movement. Small fleets of allied ships began to patrol trade routes together, protecting one another from raiders and unfair inspections. Stations once lonely now hung bright with banners of unity. Scientists from different species worked side by side with humans, trading knowledge once kept locked away. Tamash looked out from a high platform at Unity Station, where construction hummed day and night. The massive station stretched like a shining wheel above Earth, each section built not by one nation, but by all. Vayans worked alongside humans, their feathered hands quick on delicate wiring. Thalri miners carried materials with strength born of hard worlds. Even smaller groups, once scattered, now sent help. It is happening, Tamash whispered. It is real. Still, not everyone welcomed this new rise. The great empires of the council began to notice. At first, they dismissed it as human pride. But as reports grew, as trade began to shift toward Earth's alliance, unease spread in their halls. They had denied Earth to keep them small, yet the denial had made them grow faster. Meanwhile, Asha returned from her journeys, her ship scarred from long travel but her eyes shining with success. Myra met her at the docking bay. You did it, Myra said softly. No, Asha answered, shaking her head. We did it. And this is only the beginning. Together, they stood in the great window of Unity Station, watching as allied ships came and went. What they saw was not just a fleet. It was the start of something greater than either had imagined. The forged alliance was not built on power alone. It was built on shared struggle, on the voices of the forgotten, and on the promise of something new. The council had a table where only the powerful sat. But humanity was building a hall, wide and open, where all could gather. The galaxy was beginning to listen. And soon, it would have no choice. The birth of the Forged Alliance marked the start of a new chapter for humanity and its allies. But ideas alone could not carry a movement across the stars. To be seen, to be respected, and to be remembered, they needed symbols of strength that could not be ignored. And so the work began. In orbit above Earth, Unity Station grew day and night. It had started as a single ring, but soon it became a vast wheel with dozens of arms stretching outward like the spokes of a star. Its shining lights could be seen even from the ground, and when children pointed at it, their parents told them, "That is the future." Inside, the air hummed with life. Humans, Vayans, Thalri, and others walked side by side through the wide halls. Scientists shared labs, pilots trained together, and engineers shaped new vessels unlike any the galaxy had seen. The station was not just a structure, it was a message. It said, "We are here. We are united. We will not be silent." Tomash, now one of the lead engineers, oversaw the construction with pride. He often stood on the high viewing decks, watching as massive carriers and sleek cruisers took form in the dockyards. These were not ships of war alone. Many were built for exploration, trade, and rescue. Yet each one carried the unmistakable mark of human design: bold lines, strong frames, and engines that roared with determination. "They will see us," Tomash said to his crew. "Not because we begged, but because we built." Meanwhile, Myra worked tirelessly as a diplomat, reaching out to more worlds left behind by the Council. Each new agreement brought more strength to the alliance, more voices eager to be heard. Some came with resources, others with knowledge, and some simply with hope. Each one added another layer to the growing movement. It was Asha, however, who gave the alliance its heart. She led missions into dangerous regions, carrying supplies to colonies that had been forgotten, protecting convoys from pirates who had preyed on the weak for generations. Her ship, the Aurora, became a symbol of trust. To those who saw its silver wings cut through the void, it meant safety, it meant fairness, it meant a better tomorrow. News of these efforts spread quickly. On distant worlds, people began whispering of Unity Hall, the great chamber being built at the core of Unity Station. It was designed not as a copy of the Council's chamber, but as its opposite. Instead of a circle of thrones where only a few could sit, it was a vast open hall with endless seats, where every voice had a place. When Tomash saw the first banners raised inside Unity Hall, he felt his chest tighten with pride. "This is it," he said softly. "This is what we were meant to build." But as Earth and its allies grew stronger, the Council grew restless. In their hidden meetings, the elder empires spoke in hushed voices. "The humans build too fast," one warned. "They draw the lesser races to their side," another hissed. "If this continues, they will rival us," said a third, their eyes narrow with worry. The Council had wanted to keep humanity small, but now humanity was anything but small. Every ship that launched from Unity Station, every agreement signed in Unity Hall, was proof that Earth was shaping the galaxy in ways the Council had not expected. Still, humanity did not pause. On Earth's moon, new shipyards spread like silver forests across the craters. On Mars, domes shone bright, filled with workers who dreamed of carrying their red world's name across the stars. Even the outer colonies, once quiet and struggling, were now alive with new purpose. Children grew up hearing not just of Earth, but of the Alliance. They studied alien languages alongside their own, dreamed of becoming pilots, scientists, or diplomats, and looked to the stars not as distant mysteries but as a home they would share. Myra often walked through Unity Hall when it was empty, listening to the echo of her own footsteps. She imagined it filled with thousands of voices, some human, some alien, all speaking as equals. The Council had denied Earth a seat, but here, no one would be denied. She smiled as she touched the smooth surface of the great table at the center. "The table is ready," she whispered. "Now, we must fill it." Asha returned from a long mission one evening, her ship scarred but her spirit strong. She reported to Myra and Tomash about new allies found on the edges of space, small groups who had once given up hope. They believed no one cared for them, Asha explained. Now they see us. And they want to be part of this. Tomash grinned. Then let them come. There is room for all. The galaxy began to change, slowly but surely. Trade shifted toward the Alliance. Small colonies once ignored by the Council now found new life through partnership with Earth. Stories of human courage spread from one end of the stars to the other. The Council watched with unease, but could do nothing yet. Their own people were beginning to ask questions. Why had the humans, denied and rejected, built something greater than the Council itself? The answer was simple, because they refused to be silent, and because they invited everyone to stand beside them. The table was expanding. And soon, the galaxy would gather around it. The galaxy had begun to notice. Reports of Unity Station and Earth's growing alliance reached even the oldest empires of the Council. Some dismissed it at first, calling humanity reckless and naive. But the more the stories spread, the more unease settled in the chambers of power. It was during one of these reports that the first real test arrived. A distant trade route near the Outer Rim had been attacked by raiders. The victims were not human but belonged to one of Earth's new allies, a small and peaceful colony of the Vayans. Their ships were destroyed, and their people were trapped with little hope of rescue. The Council, as expected, told Earth to stay out of the matter. "It is not your concern," the speaker declared in their crystal-like voice. "Do not intervene, or the consequences will fall on your species alone." Myra stood in the command center of Unity Station, listening to the report. She felt a cold weight settle over her chest, but it was quickly replaced by fire. "We cannot leave them," she said quietly, but firmly. "We promised we would protect our allies. We will not break that promise." Asha was ready. Her ship, the Aurora, had been refitted with faster engines and shields stronger than anything the humans had ever built. She gathered a fleet of human and allied ships. Every pilot knew the risks. Every engineer had ensured the ships were ready. Yet, none hesitated. "We go together," Asha told the fleet. "We go for them, and we go for what we stand for. If anyone thinks humans and their allies will be passive, they are wrong." The journey to the attacked trade route was tense. The void of space seemed colder than usual. Each ship carried more than weapons, they carried hope, trust, and the weight of countless eyes watching from their worlds. When the fleet arrived, the raiders were still in control. Massive ships, black and jagged, blocked the corridor. The Vayans' ships were in flames. But as the human-led fleet approached, the raiders hesitated. They had heard of Earth's rising power, of the alliances forming around them. Perhaps for the first time, they felt the uncertainty of facing a united force. The battle began with precision. Humans and their allies worked together as one. Ships moved in patterns the raiders could not predict. The Aurora led, weaving through enemy fire to protect the Vayan ships. The coordination was unlike anything seen before. Humans communicated with their allies not only with language but with timing, instinct, and shared trust. Within hours, the raiders were defeated. Their ships were disabled, not destroyed, leaving the path open for justice and repair. The Vayans people were rescued, shaken but alive. They could not hide their astonishment. For centuries, they had believed no one cared. Now, a fleet had come across the void to save them. Back on Unity Station, Myra received the report with a quiet smile. They will remember this, she said. And the council will notice. Indeed, the council did notice. Messages of concern flew between the elder empires. They disobeyed us, one warned. They acted against our orders. They cannot be controlled, another added. And now others will follow them. They grow too fast, a third said, their voice tight with worry. But Earth did not act for fear or for power. They acted because they believed in their allies and in the promise of unity. Every life saved strengthened the trust in the growing alliance. Every victory, however small, sent a clear message: humanity and its allies could not be ignored. Tomasz watched as reports of the battle came in. Engineers and pilots in the hangars cheered quietly, but he knew it was more than celebration. It was pride. Pride in what they had built and in what they were becoming. Humanity was no longer a planet denied a seat, they were a force of presence, capable of defending others and inspiring hope. Asha returned to Unity Station, her ship battered but triumphant. We did what had to be done, she said to Myra and Tomasz. And they will not forget it. The Vayans sent messages of gratitude, and other smaller worlds began asking for protection and cooperation. Earth's alliance was no longer just a promise, it was a reality. The first confrontation had been more than a battle. It was a lesson to the galaxy. If humans and their allies were willing to act, to protect the weak, and to stand together, then no one could dismiss them. The Council had denied Earth a seat, but humanity was already building a place of its own. And now, with the first test behind them, the Alliance looked to the future with stronger hearts. They had taken the first step from being refused into being unstoppable. Myra stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, looking out at the stars. They thought they could stop us, she whispered. But we have already begun to change the galaxy. Above, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, reflecting the promise of a people who would not wait, who would not beg, and who would not be silenced. Humanity had taken its first real step into the galaxy. And the galaxy would never be the same. The victory over the Raiders had proven that humanity and its allies could act when others would not. Yet the Council was far from defeated. In their hidden chambers, the elder empires whispered and debated. Sanctions were proposed. Trade restrictions were planned. Threats were sent to smaller worlds to keep them from joining Earth's alliance. But each attempt to isolate humanity only strengthened the bonds that had formed. On Earth, Myra met with leaders from allied worlds in Unity Hall. The Great Chamber had grown even larger since its first construction. Long tables lined with seats for hundreds of representatives formed a circle around the central platform. Each world, no matter how small, had a voice. Myra addressed the assembly with calm determination. We will not be intimidated, she said. Every attempt to divide us only proves the importance of unity. We are stronger together, and the galaxy can no longer ignore us. Her words were met with applause and cheers from the gathered representatives. Some were alien, some human, but all shared the same resolve. Meanwhile, in the orbital shipyards above Mars, Tomasz oversaw the launch of the newest fleet. These ships were larger, faster, and more capable than any before. They were designed not just for protection, but for exploration, trade, and communication. Every vessel carried crews from multiple worlds, working side by side. Engineers from Thalri mines and Vayan colonies collaborated with human technicians, creating technology faster than the Council could anticipate. Asha piloted the lead ship, the Aurora, on its first voyage. She guided a convoy of supply vessels to a distant colony that had once been blocked from trade by Council-controlled systems. As they arrived, the colony's inhabitants cheered, waving flags that blended the colors of Earth with their own. It was a small moment, but one that carried great meaning. Across the galaxy, smaller civilizations began to look to Earth for guidance and protection. Word spread that joining the alliance meant security, opportunity, and respect. Some had previously feared that siding with humans would provoke the Council, but as more worlds joined, it became clear that humanity's leadership was not aggressive, it was principled. The Council grew anxious. Their warnings had failed. Their attempts at pressure were ignored or outmaneuvered. Internal divisions began to emerge. Some empires worried about maintaining influence, others feared losing it entirely. The once unified front of the Council now showed cracks, and humanity's rise exploited them. Back on Unity Station, Myra walked through the halls, listening to representatives discuss trade agreements, new exploration missions, and shared technology projects. She stopped at the central observation deck, looking out at the stars. Each light was a reminder of what had been achieved. Each distant planet a symbol of hope that had once seemed impossible. They cannot isolate us, she whispered to herself. They cannot stop what has begun. Tomasz joined her, holding a data pad filled with reports from the newly launched fleet. Every system we visit joins willingly, he said. They see what we are building. And they want to be part of it. Myra nodded. This is the turning point. The Council can threaten and warn, but the galaxy is already moving towards something new. And we are leading it. Even Asha, returning from a long mission, felt the change. The galaxy no longer whispered of humanity as reckless or young. Now, words of respect and curiosity spread in her path. Ships from distant colonies met her fleet with supplies, maps, and messages of cooperation. She had become more than a pilot, she was a symbol of trust and courage. In the weeks that followed, Earth and its allies solidified their influence. A network of stations, convoys, and communication hubs formed a web across the outer rim. Trade routes were opened that had been closed for decades. Scientists shared knowledge freely, and young leaders from different worlds began to train together for the first time. The turning point was not marked by a single battle or confrontation. It was marked by a shift in perception. Worlds that had once feared the Council's power now saw that humanity and its alliance could protect, build, and lead. They saw a future where their voices mattered, where their needs were recognized, and where they were no longer small in the eyes of the galaxy. On Unity Station, Myra stood once more in the Great Hall, surrounded by representatives from dozens of worlds. The galaxy has changed, she said. Not because we fought to dominate it, but because we fought to include it. Every world, every voice matters. And together, we will ensure that no one is forgotten. Outside, the stars shone brightly above the station. Ships moved through space like streams of light, carrying people, hope, and the promise of a new era. Humanity had turned rejection into strength. They had taken the first steps toward reshaping the galaxy, and the Council could no longer control the future. The turning point had arrived. Humanity was no longer alone. They were not asking for a seat at the table. They were building a table where every world could sit as equals. And the galaxy would gather around it. The day had come. For decades, humanity had been denied, underestimated, and overlooked by the great powers of the galaxy. The Galactic Council had refused Earth a seat, claiming the young species was reckless and unprepared. Yet now, the galaxy had shifted. Humanity was no longer asking for acceptance. Humanity was leading, and the proof was everywhere. Unity Station hung in orbit above Earth like a shining crown. Its rings stretched wider than any council chamber. Ships from countless worlds docked along its arms, each bearing representatives, diplomats, and crews. The hall at its center, the Great Unity Hall, was ready to welcome the galaxy, not as a place of power for a few, but as a home for all. Myra stood at the central platform, looking out over the assembled crowd. There were humans, Vayans, Thalri, and countless others. Every species that had been overlooked, forgotten, or dismissed now had a voice. They filled the hall with color, banners, and hope. "This is the day we have worked for," Myra said, her voice carrying through the chamber. "The council once denied us a seat. They thought we would beg, wait, and fade into silence. But we did not. We built. We reached out. We united. And now, we stand not as petitioners, but as equals. We have taken the whole table, and there is room for everyone." Asha stood nearby, her eyes scanning the assembly. Ships from distant colonies were still arriving, bringing new representatives and messages of trust. Her fleet, once small and uncertain, had grown into a force that connected systems and people in ways the Council could not undo. Tamash moved among the assembly, overseeing the technical arrangements. Holographic screens displayed maps, trade networks, and communication lines. Every detail had been prepared not to show dominance, but to ensure that all voices could participate equally. He paused to watch a young Thalri delegate speak with a human engineer, sharing ideas freely. In that moment, he realized the true power of the alliance. It was not ships or technology, but trust, collaboration, and shared purpose. Outside Unity Station, the council observed from afar. The chambers were quiet, filled with discussion and tension. "They have done the impossible," one elder said. "They have gathered the forgotten, united the overlooked, and built a force that cannot be ignored." Another spoke with concern. "We denied them a seat to keep them small. We warned them. We threatened them. And yet, here they are, stronger than ever. What do we do now?" But Earth and its allies did not wait for answers from those who had refused them. They had already created a future of their own design. Inside Unity Hall, Myra extended an invitation. "To every world represented here today," she said, "we offer participation, friendship, and equality. No voice is too small. No history too brief. You will all have a place, not because we demand it, but because we believe every being matters. This is the new table. And it belongs to all of us." The hall erupted in cheers and applause. Aliens and humans embraced, shared stories, and began conversations that had once been impossible. Representatives spoke of trade, exploration, and mutual protection. For the first time, the galaxy felt connected not by fear or domination, but by shared vision. Asha walked to Myra's side. "They are listening now," she said. "And they are ready to follow our lead." Myra nodded. "Not to follow, but to join. We do not lead to control. We lead to include. That is what sets humanity apart. That is what builds trust across worlds." From the observation deck, Tamash watched as a convoy of ships approached Unity Station. Each vessel carried delegates and supplies. Each one represented a world that had once been silent, now claiming a voice at the table. "They said we could not do it," Tamash whispered. "They said we were too young, too small, too reckless. And yet, here we are, taking the galaxy with us." The council remained distant, observing in silence. They had expected negotiation or pleading. They had not expected leadership, courage, or unity. Humanity had turned rejection into power, isolation into connection, and denial into opportunity. As the sun rose over Earth, its light spilled across the station and the fleets in orbit. It shone on every representative, every ship, and every heart that had believed in a better future. The galaxy was awake. The galaxy was listening. And the galaxy had finally found a table that welcomed all. Myra raised her hand to the assembly, her voice steady and strong. "This is not the end," she said. "It is only the beginning. Together, we will shape a galaxy where no voice is ignored, where no world is too small, and where every being can find a place. The table is ours, and it belongs to everyone who dares to stand united." And for the first time in galactic history, the words of a single species, humanity, were not a plea or a petition. They were a promise. The promise that rejection could become strength, that denial could become opportunity, and that the galaxy would never be the same again. The table was taken. The table was full. And humanity had shown the stars what it meant to be united, courageous, and unstoppable.